I'm really excited to have finished block 54, the shell block by Jane Davidson. I'm going to show you one of the thoughts I had for machine quilting this. I'm taking kind of the inspiration for the quilting from the shell itself, and on some seashells I've seen there are little ridges going across each of these sections, and I want to stitch a series of scallops in here. So I'm going to start, put my needle down, bring my bobbin up. Don't want any of those surprises on the back. Take a couple stitches here. I am using a khaki or a tan thread. I want it to show up a little for the video, but I also like it to show up a little in the quilting. So I'm going to stitch a curve from this point to that point, and again to the point, and I'm actually taking my foot off the pedal in between each one of these whenever I'm pausing. This quilt doesn't have to get quilted today. I can take my time. So a curve and a curve. And once I've finished the first row of them, I'm going to simply stitch up a little bit, kind of using my foot as my guide here. So I'm stitching up so the edge of my foot is on the stitching line. And I'm going to stitch another line of shells from point to point, over to the next seam line, the next seam line, the next seam line. And now I'm going to stitch up a little more. These are not going to be perfectly even from row to row. You're going to see my stitching a little bit, and I'm totally fine with that. And then up again. It's just adding some nice little texture. I'm using Pat Sloan's Hometown Girl fabric here, and she actually has some shell fabric in here, so I'm kind of duplicating what's already in the navy blue fabric, or the royal blue fabric here. And another shell, scallops all the way around. I'm kind of making some taller scallops in the middle here, because I think I have a little more fabric to take up. I'm making some smaller ones on the edges. Taller ones. If I don't hit those corners exactly, I'm really fine with that, because it's paper pieced by me, which means the piecing is not perfect to start with. So let's make some taller ones here. Fill in a little more space. You could mark this out ahead of time if you want to plan it a little bit. I don't think any seashells are ever perfect, so I'll let mine go a little imperfect here as well. So let me make a knot and show you what I've done here. I'm just making a couple small stitches, bringing up my needle, and I'm going to trim my thread. Top and bobbin. So I've stitched the scallops in this part of the shell, and it's a pretty fine thread I used. It's the Aurifil 50 weight, and I used a kind of a khaki or a taupe color here. So you're seeing a little texture in here. It's kind of a subtle addition to the quilt block, without overpowering it. I have a couple more areas in the block that could be quilted, which is this area down here. Then I also have the background. So if you're choosing a background for all of your blocks, whatever one background you're choosing, you can continue that throughout the entire quilt. I think I'm going to use pebbles or bubbles on this one, keeping with the nautical seashell-y type of theme. And I'm probably going to do some straight line quilting down here. So let me get set up and show you some more. So I've started in the point in the bottom of my triangle area here at the bottom of my shell, and I am using a Handy Quilter Stitch 710 home sewing machine. I have it equipped with a ruler foot up here, if you can see this. It is a round foot that is made to quilt against quilting templates. Check with your manufacturer to see if a ruler foot is available for your machine. I am stitching against this straight edge here. This is a Handy Quilter mini scallop ruler. And I'm going to just do a couple straight lines. I have used ruler grip in here. You can see these squares. This is called Handy Grip, and what it does is helps me grip the fabric while I'm stitching. So I'm going to use this ruler to help me push the fabric while I'm quilting, and keeping my foot against the edge of the ruler. So there's just a straight line up and back. Let me move my ruler over a little bit. And let me do another straight line. I'm just kind of guessing at distances here. You could measure it out if it really matters to you. So I'm doubling each of my stitching lines, and they're further apart out here and closer together down in the middle. That does two things. One, it fills up the area nicely, and the other thing it does is it covers up that center. I am not the world's best paper piecer, so my center, no matter, I made this block like 6 times, and it's never going to come out perfect. It's not my greatest skill in life, so I can use the machine quilting to kind of camouflage an area. Let me go stitch another one here. So more stitching in the center is kind of covering up. The center isn't exactly perfect. And who doesn't need a little help sometimes? Again, I'm guessing at distances here, just moving the ruler over a little each time. When working with a ruler and estimating where to put it, you have to remember with a ruler foot, you are a 1/4 inch away from where your needle is. So you have to allow that extra space. And here, I'm actually going to put 3 in this one because it kind of needs it. Move this over some more. Go. Just a couple more. And this way I'm turning the ruler instead of turning my quilted piece for each line. All the way up and back. So now I've finished all of the straight line quilting there. I'm just going to add in a little bit of bubble quilting in this background. Now, all of these, if you're thinking of them as bubbles or pebbles, they're not all the same size, so I'm not worried about that. I'm going to stitch around one about 1.5 times and stitch around another circle about 1.5 times. And what that's doing is putting the needle in the forward position so I can continue making the next pebble. A little retracing can help get it rounder if you're not as happy with how round it is the first time. So I'm not sure how well you can see that. Let me finish it up and show you the finished block. And here's my finished block. with the scallops, the straight lines, and the pebbles. Happy quilting!